Welcome to Bipolar Recorder. This is Hunter Keegan. Thanks for tuning in. This is our first official podcast release of 2026, installment number 67. I meant to get this uploaded a couple of weeks ago, but life has been a little wild lately, so it took me a bit to finish up the editing. Before we get into today's interview, I wanted to provide a quick update about the Goodbye 25 funding drive. As you may recall, last month I was doing a fundraising campaign through the official bipolarrecorder.com web store, and I'm so excited to announce that the funding drive was a success. I was able to raise the money I needed to acquire some important new studio equipment that I'd been trying to get my hands on for a very long time. So thank you so much to everyone who supported the campaign. This is totally awesome and truly helped get 2026 started on the right note. And for people who didn't support the campaign, we do have our new 2026 merch in stock, and it's available for purchase at bipolarrecorder.com as of about a week ago. So check that out on there. We've got brand new merch in stock, new stickers, new buttons, etc., etc. Give it a look at bipolarrecorder.com. Like I said a minute ago, things have been very busy for me lately, and I'd like to fill you in on some more about that. But today's interview is actually pretty lengthy, so I'll save my personal updates for another time. What you're about to hear is a conversation between myself and an old friend of mine from college, James Kalupson. James is now an associate marriage and family therapist who spent the last couple of years working at a psychedelic therapy retreat in Jamaica. James first appeared on Bipolar Recorder in January 2024 on installment number 50, if you'd like to hear that conversation too. For today, James and I discussed a variety of topics. We start by discussing the more traditional therapy work that James is currently involved with, and then about halfway through the recording, we transition to discussing psychedelic experiences and the therapeutic and maybe not so therapeutic takeaways that people have from them. I mentioned to James at the beginning of the conversation that I'd been experiencing a hypomanic episode in the days leading up to the interview, so if my speech sounds a little pressured or exuberant during the recording, that would be why. Anyhow, I really enjoyed speaking with James again, and I think you'll find this interview very interesting. I think James and I do a good job of not romanticizing or glorifying psychedelics while also exploring the genuinely positive benefits that some people gain from them. Remember, as always, this show is not a source for medical advice, and we speak from our personal experiences and perspectives. Let's go ahead and get started. Hey, by the way, I'm actually running on literally 0 hours of sleep. I'm totally cool. I obviously want to continue doing the interview tonight, but I just wanted to give you a heads up. I think I've had a little bit of a hypomanic thing going on this week.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually reached bipolar, but I actually reached out to my psychiatrist this morning
hmm
because I haven't been sleeping, and it's odd. That's really the only thing that I've noticed going on is like I just can't fucking sleep, and
mm
like it's not like racing thoughts. It's just like my mind feels active. Like I want to keep
hmm
working. Like I've been working on recording some songs lately for
hmm
this LP I've been putting together. So like I was up last night. It was like 4:30 in the morning. I'm like wide awake in here
hmm
like working on this like mix and stuff, and I'm like in my head I'm like, dude, like this is getting kind of crazy, like you should probably like try to wind down, and it just hasn't
hmm
happened. So reached out to my doctor, and he actually he's a good psychiatrist, man. Not a lot of them are not like this, but I just shot him an email earlier this morning. I was like, "Hey, man, I haven't slept in like 3 days. I don't know what's going on. Can you send like a..."
hmm
Anyway, long story short, after we wrap up here, I'm probably going to bed pretty early.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. And if you need to like, wind if you suddenly get hit with like,
That
if you hit the
wall.
wall or
Yeah.
something, yeah, let me know.
Cool,
Um,
bro. Appreciate
I've
you.
also had a long day, so
Yeah.
I'm like, I've been doing sessions all day, and so we're kind of
Yeah.
in both in this space of I don't know what, but
Yeah. All right. How do I want to do this? I think I'll just start by saying, good evening. I'm joined by James Kalupson, a returning guest to Bipolar Recorder. James, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing fantastic. It's been great to catch up these few
We were just
minutes.
chatting a little bit. We are just
Yeah.
chatting, and now we're transitioning into the actual interview.
Yes.
For the audience, to break the fourth wall a little bit, James and I went to college together at Penn State University. James graduated a couple years ahead of me, if I remember correctly.
I think so.
Yeah, and so we got to know each other hanging out at Penn State through our kind of mutual circles of friends and our shared interest in like music and playing guitar and all that, chill, good stuff. Um, when you were last on the show, you talked about your career path and how it changed over time. You had graduated from Penn State with an engineering degree,
Mhm.
and then worked in like not tech sales per se, but like solar panel.
Recruiting. Yeah, and
Okay,
solar. Yes, I
and
did
solar.
solar panels as well.
Okay,
Yep.
yeah, and so the reason I'm just providing that context is for if anyone wants to like go and listen to that installment. I think it was the 50th installment of the show actually. So I'll put a link for
Wow.
that in the description if anyone wants to check that out and get like the full background. But today, for the purposes of this dialogue, what we really want to focus on is what you've been up to since your last appearance, which was almost
Mhm.
exactly 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you were AMFT in California, and
Yep.
I was just kind of having you kind of refresh my memory on like the acronyms and stuff. Could you maybe explain a little bit about that for the crowd
Right.
and talk about like what it means in terms of like the actual day-to-day work that you are involved with?
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. So, yeah, an AMFT associate, and this is different for pretty much all states. It's determined at the state level, the sort of pathway to becoming a licensed mental health professional. In California, they have two. I mean, it's technically there's two different ones. There's a few. The two that I have are associate marriage and family therapist, and then associate professional clinical counselor, which are essentially they're more similar than they are different. I don't need to get into the two of them, but
Sure.
essentially what that means as an associate is that someone's graduated from a master's program with the requirements that the state of California requires to be a mental health professional, and then the associateship process is essentially a period of accruing clinical experience in terms of just hours of seeing clients. That's also taking place under direct supervision of a supervisor. So, as in practice, what that means is that an associate can practice psychotherapy. They can call themselves a psychotherapist, um, but there's just specific things around the language of that. I
Yeah.
can't say that I'm a licensed therapist yet. Um, I have to make sure that I emphasize that I'm being supervised by a
Yeah.
licensed clinical supervisor. Um, and again, this is where all the states are different. In California, it's 10 to 1. So for every 10 hours a week that I see, I need at least 1 hour of supervision.
Okay.
Um, during the week, and that's again that's different from every state, but it's been I like you said the last time we spoke, I was just starting that process in a lot of
Right.
ways, and I've been doing that ever since. Um, I have several, an increasing number of classmates and colleagues who are reaching the end of their associateship and they're starting to get licensed. It usually takes about 2 to 3 years. In California, we need 3,000 hours
Hmm.
of 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 experience to be able to take the licensing exam.
Right.
Um, it's taken me a little bit longer because I've been doing the thing down in Jamaica.
Yeah.
Um,
And we'll get into that in a little bit.
we'll get into that. And unfortunately, none of the hours there I could
Yeah.
count towards my license.
Hmm.
But it was a trade-off that had returns that I was willing to sacrifice for.
Yeah.
Um, and so, and I can't remember. We may have texted about this when you reached out a few months ago. Um, I'm officially moved on from Jamaica. I left there
Right.
in November. So I was there for about 2.5 years, a little less than 2.5 years,
Hmm.
um, in total. And yeah, getting ready to take the next step. I mean, I've taken the next step. It's happening. Next steps are
Yeah.
happening.
The future
So,
is here.
right.
Can you explain a little bit about just like for people who aren't familiar with the term supervision in the context of like
Hmm.
therapy? What
Yeah.
does that look like when you say you have like 1 hour of supervised
Yeah.
hours? What does
Yeah.
that mean actually?
That's a really great question. It's essentially it's an hour-long meeting with my supervisor where it's an opportunity for me to talk about the cases that I'm working on and ask questions. I mean, it's an opportunity to think about the most difficult ones that I'm working with,
Hmm.
the areas where I feel most challenged,
Hmm.
and receive support on that.
Yeah.
And
What
so, yeah.
what are some common challenges or like concerns or issues that
Hmm.
people come to you for services for?
Hmm. Well, so currently my caseload consists primarily of insurance, kind of state level insurance
Hmm.
clients.
Hmm.
So I work with, there's a few different insurance panels in California that I'm connected to. And so there's like the low income
Hmm.
state level community mental health kind of service that the agency that I work for provides. It's a nonprofit.
Hmm.
Um, and so it's a very diverse population
For
and
sure.
set of presenting problems that people come with. Um, Another insurance panel is primarily focused. It services a lot of organizations and companies that are involved with first responders, so police officers,
Yeah.
firefighters, just yeah, first responders
Wow.
and their families.
Yeah.
People who are on their insurance plans. Um, Los Angeles recently contracted with this organization to do so. Now anybody who works for the city of LA, they get like employer, it's a few sessions. It's not like a whole, it's not
Oh,
like they
like
can go to
the
therapy, but it's like
EAP.
EAP.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's pretty diverse. I have a lot of different clients coming with different things, working with couples, working with lots of teenagers,
Oh, yeah.
just
Okay.
individual adults, from all over the spectrum
Cool.
in every way. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you find that there's like a particular like population of some kind that you really enjoy working with? Like for me, I know that I really enjoy working with like young adults and adolescents,
Hmm.
like in the volunteer work that I do,
Yeah.
or like when I go out to Penn State, like I love talking with like college age kids and
Yeah.
like it's just like such a cool energy.
Yeah.
Do you, and I'm not saying that that means I dislike other population. I'm just saying like that's like the
Sure.
particular
Sure.
one. Do you have any groups like that that you're like, man, I
Yeah.
really love like this particular like area?
Absolutely. And I think, you're touching on something that I think I certainly experienced and I think a lot of people experience when they get into a field where they're working with like the human services, they're working with
Hmm.
a lot of people all the time. you get connected with people that, like, I never thought I would enjoy working with teenagers or young adults in the way that I really do now.
Yeah.
And it's not until I started working with my first clients who were in that population, that became a thing. And then, um, I mean, it's just really, as someone myself who has gone through a lot of personal growth and
Mm-hmm.
transformation, um, I find that I really enjoy working with older folks,
Mm-hmm.
and older, not even being older, but just, I mean, older than I am, or,
Yeah.
you know,
How old are you, by the way?
I'm 35.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
33.
Yeah.
Like I
And so
said, you were a couple
working
years older than
a
I was
couple,
during our time at PSU. But
right,
yes,
right.
okay.
But yeah, working with people, in their 50s or 60s, or, I mean,
Yeah,
especially from down in Jamaica, people in their like retirement 70s, they're
yeah.
coming down and they want to, they're trying to address some problem, but they kind of inadvertently stumble onto this path of, oh my gosh, like, I could, there's so many things that I want to do and grow into, and I can see how all of these things I've been stuck with, are, I can apply myself in a certain way and, grow past them in a, or at least learn to relate to them in a different way.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and that's exciting to see someone, there's almost like a spark in their
Hmm.
eye when they get to that place of, they're obviously in a different phase of life.
Hmm.
Um, but I also find that, it's interesting because that creates this weird dynamic where, I have like a 65-year-old retired gentleman coming to me for
Hmm.
advice,
I
or
know.
for,
How trippy
for
is that?
counsel. And it's,
Yeah.
there's something that's so, yeah, on one hand, it's such a departure from like the tradition of,
Yeah.
elders in society, and that's the source of wisdom and knowledge. And, and then being in a position where successful people are coming to me for counsel, and to to have a space where they can express
Hmm.
themselves, and sort of grapple with these things. Um, yeah,
Yeah, it's fascinating. What a
it's
fascinating
fascinating.
dynamic.
It
Yeah.
really is. Yeah.
And it's like it sounds really cliche, but having worked in human services and, supporting various individuals, it's like it's true that you learn a lot from them. Like as much as you teach and
Yeah.
mentor, like
Yeah.
there's a lot that you're learning as well. And
Yeah.
it does really help you grow, and it really shines a lot of perspective on just how complex our society is, and
Yeah.
like how challenging it is in such different ways for such different,
Yeah.
members of our communities.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, how complex our society is, because of how complex each individual is,
Yeah.
and how different. I mean, it's, it never ceases to amaze me. I mean, I'm very early in this career path, but it never ceases to amaze me how profoundly different people experience the world, and how different their personalities are, and how what they've experienced affects them, and how that's influenced them. It's it's honestly, it's hard to describe. It's hard to name it, because it's so, you kind of have to experience it
Mhm.
directly. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's like kind of hard to articulate, like, because it's not like like it's not like necessarily a feeling of like empathy, because it's like you're receiving something back. It's not like you're
mhm,
just relating. It's like there's like a reflection coming back at
mhm,
you, and it's
mhm,
like it's so hard to describe. Maybe it's just
mhm,
a feeling of positivity.
mhm.
It's just good vibes.
Right. Well, I feel like that reminds me of, maybe that came up in our last conversation, but It's absolutely not a one-way street in
Hmm.
this sort of work. You know, and that was one of the things that I learned in grad school early on was really emphasizing this position because I think there's a lot of, I mean, I think it's a common criticism of the majority of mainstream mental health where it
Hmm.
it can feel very cold and
Yeah.
disconnected. And I mean, you were speaking about your psychiatrist and
Hmm.
how you feel lucky you have a good one who can really respond like that.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you have a good, there is a connecting relationship there, um, which is
Yeah.
very uncommon,
It
tragically.
it's extremely uncommon, especially with psychiatrists.
Yeah.
I am so fortunate to have found this particular guy. He's super super old. He's like 85 years old or something.
Wow.
He's been like practicing medicine for like over 50 years or some shit.
Wow.
And like I always have major trust problems with psychiatrists because I've had psychiatrists fucking get me thrown in mental hospitals, right?
Yeah.
So it's very, very, I don't know, I don't want to say triggering, but like I'm very apprehensive of any psychiatrist who I work with, right? And I've been working with this current guy for like basically the last 5 years. And
Mm.
he's like the first psychiatrist out of like maybe the 8 or 9 psychiatrists I've worked with as an adult. He's the only one who like really seems to be genuinely invested in my well-being.
Mm.
And
Mm.
like he will not just push meds, like he will recommend
Mm.
like books or like articles to read.
Wow.
Dude,
Yeah.
like in this day and age, hardly anyone is doing that.
Yeah.
If he prescribes me a medication where, and all of these meds have side effects, but like he'll have his
Right.
own like personally written like 1 page sheet about like this is what you need to watch out for. Let me know if you encounter like these sorts of symptoms, et cetera, et cetera. And
Yeah.
it's like I swear, man, like I feel like he's really maybe like the last like one of the last of those sorts of dudes who are
Yeah.
still in the field and who are still alive.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that across the board, but
Yeah.
just maybe that's just kind of the vibe I'm getting.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a real tragedy. That was another thing that I was exposed to early on in grad school. And I think they did that intentionally. We had community mental health classes and
Hmm.
classes about, um, yeah, psychopharmacology and just I think they wanted to prepare us for what it's like to go out into the world as a therapist and to be working in the institutions of the mental health field. And I mean, it's kind of a sometimes it can feel like a wasteland,
In what
um,
sense?
in the sense of just how every institution struggles with. I mean, in a way, it's kind of like the way that I look at it is it's the inevitable tension between the principle of care and the principle of, I mean, this is like a dirty word, but profit.
Hmm.
Um, but I mean, I'm not using it as a dirty word in this case. It's more, I guess I'm using that word as a representative of, the need for people to energetically sustain themselves as a practitioner and as a service provider, right? And there's kind of an inevitable tension that arises from the fact that healthcare isn't easily scalable.
Hmm.
People need, the kind of care that everybody needs is it's not, you can't really scale it easily across the board. And so it takes a tremendous amount of effort and energy to train a service provider in the ideal ways.
Hmm.
And they have to be willing to dedicate all of that time and energy themselves and willing to do that.
Yeah.
Um,
And their money too. I mean, it's not free
exactly,
to get these
exactly.
degrees and licenses and
It's
stuff.
extremely expensive.
Right.
It's extraordinarily expensive. And, I can tell you just getting back to the associate angle in California, As an associate, we have to, like, we're basically working for our supervisor.
Hmm.
And so yeah, I mean, a lot of people criticize how it's set up as a form of indentured servitude because,
Yeah.
we're putting, somebody spends, thousands and thousands of dollars, goes into tremendous debt, oftentimes changing careers,
Yeah.
to become a mental health professional. And the average wage is, maybe if you're lucky, 35 or $40 an hour.
Yeah.
Um, and that's
That's
managing a
not a lot for the amount of schooling, the incredible time
right,
investment, all of that.
right,
Yeah.
right. And the other I mean, I could talk a lot about this, but one thing that I've noticed, comparing this career to what I used to do in sales and engineering, was that, when I'm in an office job, I'm there for 8 or 9 hours,
Right.
whatever.
Hmm.
Um, how much work I'm actually doing where I'm like focused on whatever task that I'm doing, aggregate across the day, maybe a few hours,
Yeah.
maybe.
I remember
Other
those days in
times,
corporate America.
right? Other times I'm like dicking around with my colleagues in the office,
Yeah.
like making reservations, something like just doing stuff
Yeah.
during the day, right?
What are we doing once we're out of here? Like,
Right. Yeah. And but as a mental health professional, the work is, to sit with somebody for an hour
yeah,
uninterrupted of intense, I mean, intense focus. I mean, we're not
actively listening.
actively, we're not focused on anything else. And that's a lot to be doing for, I mean, sometimes these places pay $25 an hour.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
What
yeah,
do you have like a certain like cutoff that you've identified where you're like, I can meet with this many people in one day and then like I need to like establish that boundary and like
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
do you have you reached a limit yet?
I haven't reached a limit yet. I mean, in a day, it's hard to see more than 8 people a
Gosh.
day.
That's a lot.
It's a lot, and I've only done that I think maybe once or twice.
Yeah.
If I'm rescheduling, if I'm going on a trip and I need to move sessions around or whatever.
Mm,
I don't do that often, because then, I mean, that energetic expenditure carries over into the next day and the next day and the next day. And so it's more about managing a weekly cycle, I've
yeah.
found, for me, because I can brew a strong pot of coffee, and lock in for a day and go through all these sessions. Um, but the next day I'm going to be exhausted. And
Yeah.
so it's more about balancing that distribution throughout the whole week. Um, and that was one of the challenging things with Jamaica, was because we were on an alternating weekly schedule for running retreats.
Yeah. So, can
Yeah.
we talk a little bit more about Jamaica?
Yes.
You had
Yes.
like you said toward the beginning of this conversation, the last time you were on Bipolar Recorder, I believe you had been involved with a organization called Myco Meditations. And
Yes.
when we had that initial conversation, you hadn't been there for like a super long time yet.
Right. Right. I
Is
was I was essentially, I mean, in the company perspective, I was about halfway through their quote unquote training program.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, I'm trying to think, or maybe I had just finished it, because I think it was at the end of October or maybe January. Yeah. I had just finished their training program. I had been there for
yeah.
about 3 or 4 months and gone
Right.
through.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Cool.
so, yeah, so Micro Meditations is a retreat organization based in Treasure Beach, Jamaica, that uses psilocybin mushrooms, in a Western therapeutic retreat orientation. Um, if that's a yeah, it's a week long retreat. People come down. We we do. I mean, I used to help facilitate 3 doses over that week-long span with alternating integration days, and it was really, it was the reason I went there was because it was the most traditionally therapeutically oriented organization. There was
Right.
very little sort of shamanistic influences. Um, Not that
Which
there's
is
anything wrong with
sure,
anything.
sure,
It's just that
but
this
at the
was the
same
particular,
right.
yeah, yeah, this was the particular emphasis. And to be
Which makes
fair,
sense for the type of work that you are interested in doing long term
right,
too. Like I can
right,
totally understand why you wouldn't necessarily want to be at some like super maybe I guess what would be considered like traditional or like old school ritualistic kind
yeah,
of, which again, nothing wrong with that, but it's just a
yeah,
different type of approach to the psychedelic experience and
yeah,
facilitating that
right,
experience. Yeah.
right. And I think most importantly, it's what the guests and what the people who we would attract, that's what they were looking for.
Hmm.
You know, they wanted to feel this sense of familiarity and safety
Hmm.
and trust.
Yeah.
And so when they arrive and we're all, you know, the vast majority of people on the facilitation team have a therapeutic background,
Right.
um, just in terms of the language and just
Hmm.
the just how everything is framed.
Yeah.
It makes them feel it's easier for them to relax and feel
Hmm.
comfortable and safe, which is, you know, arguably the most important thing about a psychedelic experience. And so, yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you had you said that you spent most of the last 2 years continuing to work there on alternating
Mhm.
weeks. So were you living in Jamaica like full time, or were you like flying back and forth?
Yeah. It was mostly full time. So
Wow.
I would spend on average maybe about 9 months in
Damn.
Jamaica and then
Nice.
fly back. You know, I would fly back
Yeah.
for the holidays. And, you know, this whole time I'm seeing clients in California via telehealth.
Right.
So, you know, I would usually take April and travel to LA maybe, or, you know, during August or, you know, during the holidays back to the East Coast to be with family. Um, and so, yeah, that's, I would come off island then, but right, yeah, for the most of the time I was living there on island.
What was that like living basically most of the year in Jamaica?
Uh, I really miss it. I'm gonna miss
Yeah.
it. Um, you know, it was it's a little the place where it's called Treasure Beach, which is on the south coast, and you know it's not very easily accessible. It's, you know, you fly onto the Montego Bay on the north side of the island, and from there it's about a 2.5 hour shuttle ride. Assuming you don't hit traffic, it could be
Yeah.
4 to 5 hours. Um, you know, and you're winding down through. You're driving all the way through the island, and so
What's the
um,
geography like? Like I haven't been to Jamaica since I was like really little. So once you get away from like the more touristy areas, is it like
mhm.
mountainous or like what's the vibe?
I would say it's not mountainous in the way that Colorado
Sure.
or
Right.
California is. I'm trying to think of something similar. I feel like I remember driving through some parts of Tennessee in
Hmm.
the South where
Hmm.
it's maybe, I guess because on Jamaica they have the Blue Mountain Range, which
Hmm.
I believe gets into the 8,000 foot range for the peaks,
Cool.
which is really tall for how
Yeah.
small an island Jamaica
Yeah.
is. And so it's pretty rocky and um, like there's some pretty dramatic landscape, but
Yeah.
it's not like thousands of feet high
Hmm.
everywhere. Um, but there's definitely steep cliffs, steep
Yeah.
mountain uh, ranges that I would say maybe like hundreds to 1,000 feet in terms of like total height.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I mean, it's a very lush, it's a very tropical environment. Huge bamboo, all of the classic Caribbean things that you
Yeah.
can think of.
All of what
Mhm.
you describe really adds to the whole kind of pilgrimage aspect
Absolutely.
of all of this,
Absolutely.
right? Yeah.
And yeah, people would get there all the way to the South Coast and they would arrive, and it really was a retreat in that sense. And it really was, I mean, I think that was such a strong component of the overall experience because
Hmm.
it really is living, the infrastructure is not as robust as it is in the United States or other developed countries. Um, there's electricity and running water, but it's very sensitive to the weather.
Hmm.
You get a good rainstorm and
Yeah. A
power's probably
hurricane.
going to go out. I mean, hurricanes, yeah, don't even get me started on the hurricanes.
Mm.
But
Jamaica just got hit by a really bad one, right? Like a couple months
yeah,
ago.
yeah,
I
I
I
was
didn't really
there for
see much
that.
about it in the news, but I heard that there was like major catastrophic damage.
Yes. Yeah, it was pretty terrible. We
Were you
were
there when that happened?
Yeah. It was right
Damn.
it was literally, I mean, it was a few weeks before I was scheduled to do my last retreat and
Shit.
leave. Um and yeah, it was absolutely terrible. I mean, I have to say the year before, which was Hurricane Beryl, um definitely didn't get as much news attention last year. That was way worse for Treasure Beach because Treasure
Uh,
Beach was really kind of in the bullseye of
oh,
that.
okay.
Um, and so I happened to be there for that one too. And
Good
that was,
timing.
yeah, I mean, that was full on hurricane recovery mode I was there for 2 weeks after the storm. And then we ran a retreat on another part of the island at the end of, that was in July of 24. And so, but yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, that's 2 weeks, in the middle of the summer in the tropics. Um, no electricity, no running water,
That's intense.
no, we were fortunate we had emergency water canisters on our roof, so we could take like a 30-second shower every day. And
Hmm.
we had some like running water to do dishes and stuff. Um, but yeah, no electricity. It was probably in the 90s or hundreds
Oh my God.
every day. And, Treasure Beach was literally the worst impacted area
Hmm.
of that storm. And so, every tree is basically fallen down. Everybody's roof is gone. I mean, it was a real mess there.
That's terrible.
And so this year, luckily, again, we were supposed to be like, Treasure Beach was again in the bullseye, and this was a bigger storm, slower moving. So it lasted longer
Yeah,
wherever
just
it
like
made
hangs
landfall.
over,
Yeah.
destroying things. Yeah.
Stronger winds, more water, more everything.
Yeah.
And um, at the last hour, it moved west, another 20 miles or so. And so we missed, like, we still got hit. There was still a significant amount of damage, but, um, you know, all of the roofs that Myco Meditations replaced for the community last hurricane stayed intact for the most
Nice.
part. I think there were two out of the 100 that they put
Wow.
on that were damaged or something happened to them. But
Oh, that's
um,
that's cool. So, does Micah do like community outreach type stuff, or is
yeah,
some sort of charitable aspect to it too, or
yeah. I
something?
mean,
I don't. Maybe not charitable, but
yeah. I don't know that. Yeah, charitable. It may not isn't the most accurate way to put it, but
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, it's a small community. I mean, it's
yeah,
really it's a village, and so
yeah.
um, there was a lot of. I mean, pretty much everything that they could do realistically, they tried to do.
Nice.
Um, so with the hurricane, we're partnered with this villa where we run the retreats. And so that became kind of a home base for the community. So people could come. We had Wi-Fi. People could charge their phones. That was sort of the staging area as we were getting food and supplies
Wow.
to be delivering. I mean, because it's a very rural area. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like, there's not much there. And so we did that. When we ran retreats, we would try to take the guests out to the local restaurants throughout the week, um, so they could get part of the authentic experience, but
Yeah.
we're also supporting the local economy in that way.
Yeah.
Um, I remember last year we did a toy drive, and so throughout the year we have guests, if they want to, they can bring gifts for the kids in the village. And so we did like a whole wrapping thing, and then
Nice.
we have like
That's cool.
Santa Claus in the van driving around with, toys
A
for all
bag
the
of
kids.
mushrooms. No, I'm
Right.
just kidding.
When they get older. Yeah.
Yeah,
Not for the
someday.
kids. So yeah, that's all to say. Along with running a successful retreat company, really doing everything they could
Yeah,
to make it more than about just running the retreats.
for sure. That's the right way to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and that was another thing that I was really proud to be a part of, and was important to be able to participate in.
Yeah.
So,
That's awesome, man. So you'd spent a couple of years doing that, and then have you now why don't how about this? Like, have you fully parted ways with Micah Meditations, or are you like you're no
more, yeah, more or less.
okay.
And it's not like I mean, because the way that they have it set up is that it's a facilitation, it's a contract position. Facilitators are
Yeah.
contractors, and so, um, basically, where the point that things arrive to is that my clock is ticking in terms of the hours
Yeah.
that I need to accumulate.
Hmm.
Um, and so, in terms of lifestyle and what I'm, planning on and choosing, it's the thing that looks best for me is to move back to California so I can really just blast through these last, you know, several hundred hours that I still need to accumulate, um,
Wow.
and get licensed. And so I can keep doing it,
And
as a
is your goal to
licensed. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you.
No, go for it. Yeah.
I was just gonna ask, is your goal to have like your own private practice eventually?
Eventually, yes.
Okay.
Eventually, yes. Um, there's obviously a lot happening in the psychedelic space in
Yeah.
the US. Um, and so I feel like the timing will be right to when I am licensed, there's going to be a lot of opportunity to work within the legal
Yeah.
framework in the US.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
It's definitely a hot topic right
hmm,
now, psychedelic
very
medicine,
hot.
as some call it.
Right.
Um, what would you say that psychedelics can help people with? Like what maybe like if we had to narrow it down maybe like two or
Mhm.
three of the most important psychedelic areas.
Mhm. I mean, that's a really hard
I
question.
know, right?
Um, because I mean, and there's actually a fair bit of research that's coming on about with psilocybin, for example. There was a study that they demonstrated that, it increases, or I don't know exactly what it was, but it was in mice. It either inhibited the factors that contributed to cell aging, or it increased factors that promoted rejuvenation of
Hmm.
cells. I don't remember which one it was.
Okay.
But that's an example of an effect of psilocybin, at least in particular, that has nothing to do with anything psychological, but just from like a biological
Yeah.
metabolic
Hmm.
thing. And there's things with inflammation that is becoming more well studied. Um, the effects of reducing inflammation. So I guess this is all to say, like, there's like so many physical benefits that are associated with psilocybin mushrooms in particular.
Yeah.
Not to mention the neuroplasticity and everything that happens within the brain, psychologically as well. Um, and so Like if I were to say like what, like when you ask the question, what are the things that psychedelics can help with?
Hmm.
There's like an implied question underneath that of it's almost like a deeper question of like what are psychedelics and what do they do? Because
Yeah.
certain things, one thing that could be helpful for someone could be um, not necessarily harmful. It could be harmful for someone else. Um, and
Fuck
I
your whole day
think,
up.
yeah, yeah, or worse,
Yeah, yeah,
um,
yeah.
your week or your month or your next couple years. Um,
Yeah.
and so I guess, and so my answer to that is, um, and again, every psychedelic is different, has different qualities, but I would say generally, if we're going to look at them all kind of as a blanket thing, they're really good at breaking down rigidity and
Yeah.
structure and
Yeah.
form, so to speak. And again, that looks different between psilocybin and DMT
Yeah.
and LSD and ketamine. And so that's where it gets into this thing of like, okay, how do we apply this experience to the individual,
Right.
given what they're looking for, what they're wanting to, what they're hoping to achieve, what their expectations are. Um, and so, yeah, more specifically when it comes to mental health, um, that can very often mean breaking down the rigid or structured psychological um, environment that somebody's become accustomed to living in,
The
whether it's related
established
to,
cognitive patterns and
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Mm,
So, and I guess maybe a specific example of that is the way someone interprets or relates to, um, obviously their emotions and
mm-hmm,
memories that are attached to those emotions.
mm-hmm.
And so, if you think about the like psychic experience of somebody experiences something painful, a breakup, a loss, a betrayal, just whatever it is,
Yeah.
um, their psychic system responds to that with emotional pain,
Mm-hmm.
grief, anger, and how that experience unfolds in the weeks and months and years after the event is, there's a lot of factors that go into that, but it's a fundamentally adaptive and protective mechanism to help ensure that that person either doesn't experience that again or has the insight to avoid that experience in the future. And a lot of people experience a lot of messed up things, especially when they're younger.
Yeah.
Um, and that really shapes and influences the structure of their personality and how they experience the world. And so, what psychedelics can do is they can help recontextualize and break down those patterns in a way that allows people to see things from a different perspective
Yeah.
and to very often, we would see it all the time where people would come to the retreats and some childhood memory around, whether it's with their parents or a relative. And sometimes it can be, pretty severe,
Yeah.
abusive,
Yeah.
and traumatic experiences. Um, but they're able to, you know, that frame, whatever framing they came down with, was able to sort of melt away temporarily.
Yeah.
And they can experience that memory. Um, I mean, a lot of times it requires them to experience the memory in its
Yeah.
fullness and that full feeling. And it's often extremely, I mean, you're feeling the direct awfulness of whatever that
Yeah.
was. Um, but because they're in this environment where they're experiencing that and they're supported by us, the facilitation team, in
Right.
doing that, they can come out of that and see, oh my gosh, like I mean, a common thing is even just to recontextualize this sort of um, like the the victim and perpetrator dynamic,
Yeah.
where they can see. I mean, it would happen so often that people would be able to see whoever perpetrated whatever it was onto them. They can now hold in a greater context, and they can appreciate. Oh, like they were also in a place of deep pain, and so it makes it less personal to them, and there's it's almost like it allows for a spaciousness
Yeah.
to occur internally where they can now hold this painful experience or painful relationship in a way where they're not being hobbled by it.
Hmm.
They can walk, they can proverbially walk more upright with it. It's never going to go away. The things that happen to us, and there's no changing that. But
Hmm.
I think what psychedelics offer is a real direct opportunity to experience how we can change the way that we experience those things.
Yeah, man, that's a phenomenal response to my silly question. I think you really nailed it there, and I
Yeah.
agree with pretty much everything you said. And I like that you emphasize the maybe the I don't want to say breakdown or breaking down, but the reformatting of
Hmm.
established systems, established structures,
Hmm.
uh, social roles,
Yeah.
interpersonal dynamics, like all
Yeah.
of it. While you were talking, I was thinking to myself, you were discussing patterns and childhood and the things that people carry with them and start to discover or
Hmm.
rediscover as adults who, I don't know, maybe a 45-year-old who like takes shrooms for the first time or something. I
Hmm.
was just kind of thinking to myself, man, I had this, I don't really do a lot of psychedelics these days, but not too long ago, I had a pretty cool and very powerful experience while journaling, while tripping. I had
Hmm.
I was laying on my couch listening to, I don't know, whatever music I was listening to. It was probably something, probably like Pink Floyd or some shit. I
Hmm.
don't know.
Hmm.
And yeah, so I had this notepad with me and I was like writing on the notepad and just kind of like just free form, like free flowing, just moving the pen across the page and like feeling the pressure on the page and
Hmm.
like the way my fingers were holding the pen.
Hmm.
And I started thinking to myself, as I was just kind of like free form, just like stream of consciousness, just going back and forth across the page, like writing random symbols or letters or shapes.
Hmm.
I started doing this thing where I started just drawing a really small spiral. And as I was like, oh, I was like, oh, that feels kind of nice. And I was like, where do I know this from? And I kept thinking about it. And then I remembered when I was maybe like 10 to 14 years old, I worked with she was like sort of a therapist, but it was more, there was also like an educational component. It was like a weird, I don't know exactly how to describe it. But it was part of a therapy sort of thing that I was doing to help support my diagnosed learning disability. I
Hmm.
was diagnosed with ADD, ADHD when I was a kid.
Hmm.
And so I would see this like therapist or whatever, and we would do this thing where I would, in order to help like concentration and also to just get better at writing legibly, I would do this thing with her where we would just do circles on a chalkboard like over and over again. And so I started thinking about that as I was writing on this page and just kind of tripping out and like not really
Hmm.
actively like really realizing the significance until
Hmm.
like I'm sitting there and I just like stopped for a second and I was like looking at my hand and the way I was holding the pen and I was like, you have so much tension. I was like, why are you gripping
Hmm.
this so tightly? Like,
Hmm.
why? Like, everything on the page
Wow.
is so calm, and yet you're holding this so tightly, the way you would if you were like stressed out when you were
Hmm.
like a kid, or like when you were doing this exercise and like trying to
Mm-hmm.
remain concentrated. It was like it was
Mm-hmm.
really fucking interesting, dude.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm there by myself, you know.
Right.
I trip a lot by myself. I know that not everyone does that. It's probably not the
Right.
greatest idea, but
Right.
it was a very, very personal, like spiritual
Wow.
moment. Yeah, man. It
Because it
really,
brought you back to that time
yeah.
accidentally. It's like you kind of stumbled back into that.
Yeah, and I hadn't thought about it in so
Mm-hmm.
long until
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, yeah, man, it was beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Did you, when you were, is it okay if I ask you a
sure.
question about
Yeah,
that?
go ahead. Yeah.
Like, did you notice, like, what was it like when you became aware of the tension and the way that you were holding the pen? Like, did you soften it, or like
Yeah.
how, and what was that like?
So as I was starting to kind of, as the pieces were all starting to come together,
Yeah.
I was looking at my hand and started weeping, of course,
Wow.
like really. And I don't cry. I'm not a crier. Not, I don't mean to
Yeah.
sound like Mr. Tough Guy or anything. I just
Yeah.
don't cry a lot. It's just not really part of me, at least hasn't been so far in my life. Dude,
Right.
I was like sobbing, and it wasn't like bad. I was like, this is so powerful. Like,
Yeah.
and so as that started, all these emotions start flooding in, and it's this very like cathartic, and it's like a
Mm-hmm.
emotional but also like a very physical, you
Mm-hmm.
know, like the tension and like the tears on my face and stuff, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so and I'm like, I was just like, I just took this like really like deep breath, and I just like you know, like a box breathing sort of thing
Right.
almost, and I just like really deeply exhaled, and as I was exhaling and regulating my breathing, I felt the tension like start to dissipate out of my
Yeah.
hands onto the pen back into the page, and I just felt
Yeah.
so peaceful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was like, this is why this shit is what's up.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not for everybody, but for
Right.
people who are willing
Right.
to get into those sorts of like tripedelic, you know, opening the doors
Right.
of perception and stuff. Like, there's
Right.
value to be found there, in my
Right.
opinion.
Right. That's such a cool story and such a great
Thanks.
example
I
of
can't make this
like,
shit up, man. It's just,
right. Right.
yeah,
Yeah, and I mean that's something, we would see things like that all the time
yeah.
in Jamaica. And I think there's something, and I think that, that's a good illustration of this. We were talking about the relaxation or the falling away of like the rigid structures. And it's in the way that you described that experience. It's not like there was anything particular that you really felt or noticed as falling away or being
Uh-huh.
deconstructed, but sometimes it presents itself more as like an emergence or an
Uh-huh.
opening of this memory and this
Uh-huh.
connection. Um,
Kind of like an
and
aha sort of moment,
yes,
almost. Yeah.
yes, and so that, yeah, there's so much there, and that that experience that you had is, gosh, it sounds incredibly powerful.
It was really powerful, man. And I mean, part of what you were also describing with the way that psychedelic states of consciousness help you interact with old memories, but also kind of simultaneously look at them objectively. Um, that's also a big element of why a lot of people find success with EMDR and internal
Mhm.
family systems therapy. If
Yep.
you're probably
Yep.
familiar, yeah.
Yeah.
But like they talk about the exact same thing where it's like, okay,
Yeah.
like you're gonna be in like for using EMDR as an example, almost
Hmm.
kind of like a hypnotic setup
Yep.
where the therapist is talking to you and grounding you in the moment so that you can confront those old like awful
Hmm.
memories.
Hmm.
And like you said, the aspect of like um seeing not just the pain that you went through, but like the mature adult perspective
Hmm.
of like, oh, like this this wasn't necessarily like all about me.
Hmm.
It wasn't all about me. It's like this person
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it was a school teacher or I don't know, like whoever.
Right.
Um, they had their own shit going on.
Right.
Like who gives a fuck? Like
Right.
I'm here, you know?
Right. Right. You've survived. You found a
Survived,
way. You
and you
survived. Yeah.
learned and you strengthened yourself and you
Right.
used that bad experience to inform your worldview in a way
Right.
that made you feel more protected, and in some
Right.
cases, yeah.
Right.
And
Right.
sometimes those forms of protection and like armor that we put on are not always worthwhile. They can actually be counterproductive, and
Right.
that's what a lot
Right.
of people realize when they get into like their 30s and their 40s, and they're
Right.
like, oh man, I've been
Why do
like
I do
dragging
this?
all this
Yeah.
baggage, like what am I
Yeah.
doing? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's really
I'm
crazy.
single. Why can't I establish a relationship and keep it for more than 3 weeks? Why can't I communicate with the people that I'm close with? Uh, yeah, all these things.
Yeah, man.
You make it really good. Like what you said about IFS and EMDR. It's something that I think about a lot, that especially doing that work in Jamaica, um, because it gets into like really interesting questions around, because we don't really understand why regular talk therapy works when it
Hmm.
does.
That's true.
Um, why is it that having a conversation with somebody about certain things in a certain way can lead to a reduction in my depression symptoms or my
Hmm.
anxiety? Um, we don't really know.
Yeah.
There's research that tries to, illuminate the underlying mechanisms that's happening, but it's really just talking to someone. And we talk to
Yeah.
people all the time. So what is it about a therapy conversation that's different than talking to somebody else? And in doing the psychedelic work, um, seeing how there's such a fundamental, getting back to this theme of being able to see things differently, being able to see personal experiences and memories differently. There's something that happens in the psychedelic space where I like to use the word witness.
Hmm.
They can be witnessed differently. We can bear
Hmm.
witness to these memories and experiences in a different way. And in working and learning from the colleagues and fellow facilitators that I had in Jamaica and watching them work and just learning about the practice, um, and seeing the best outcomes that guests would have,
Hmm.
I began to notice that the therapeutic process is itself it's oriented around, as a therapist, I'm I'm asking questions with the intent to witness more deeply what the person is sharing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And they are being witnessed by
Hmm.
me in talking about their pain, and
Hmm.
in that process feeling their pain, or whatever it is. And so I think there's something fundamental about being the phenomenon of being witnessed, whether it's the self internally, us witnessing ourselves in a psychedelic state differently, or in the presence of another, um, in a therapeutic space. And so, that's a whole rabbit hole to go down there. But,
Yeah.
I think there's
Yeah.
something fundamental that connects those two things in this category of witnessing, the thing being seen differently.
I agree
Um,
with you.
yeah.
Um, and I think that um, shit. My mind is going in so many different directions. I had like a follow up I was gonna add on to what you were just saying. Let's see, IFS. It'll come back to me later, I guess. Like I said, man, not running on a lot of sleep right
Yeah.
now.
No, I get it. I get
Quick
it.
time check, actually.
Hmm.
No, I'm loving this conversation though, man. This is some
Yeah.
deep shit,
This is
yo.
great.
Hey,
Yeah.
we're right about at 7:20.
Yeah.
So why don't maybe this would actually with that
Sure. Maybe we we
with that, why don't we
withdraw.
tie this all
Yeah.
together?
Let's
But James, do you have anything you're working on right now that you would like to plug for the crowd?
Um, Well, I mean, I'm planning to move back to California in the next few months at
Hmm.
some point. Ideally working with psychedelics to the extent that that's, feasible given, just the regulatory frameworks in the US.
Hmm.
Um, continuing my getting my license. Um, if anybody, I mean, I'm currently working with, several people strictly on psychedelic integration.
Hmm.
And so it's not therapy, it's not a therapeutic process, but it's people who I've either worked with in Jamaica or other people that have been referred to me or, online, found my website.
Hmm.
Anybody who's had a psychedelic experience that in one way or another has stayed with them either in a good way or a more challenging way. Um, that's something that I'm, offering more and more of in my calendar of, let's
Okay.
talk about it and because there's this theme of integration, getting back to what we were just talking about,
Hmm.
this idea of psychedelic integration, integrating these powerful experiences, kind of like what you described, and sort of teasing out the meaning and significance of
Hmm.
what was it about that meant something to me, that compelled
Hmm.
me to cry,
Hmm.
in your example, and why did it feel so significant, and um, what was the meaning of the relaxation and the peacefulness that I felt
Hmm.
afterward? Like those sorts of things, and
Yeah.
and how does that apply to my life today, here and now, outside of
These are
the
big questions,
psychedelic
man.
experience, right? And so, and I mean, those are and I think that's the most like those questions are the most important ones, um, that anybody who is using psychedelics for a purpose of personal growth or exploration, they're inevitably going to run into an experience that really challenges
Yeah.
everything they thought they knew about themselves or the world. And
Yeah.
the substance is going to wear off a few hours after that, and they're going to be
Hmm.
back in the kind of ordinary world, uh, and they're going to have to navigate this familiar world that also might feel kind of foreign based on
Yeah.
what they experienced internally during the psychedelic experience. And so having conversations about that and help working with people to integrate those experiences and help them, preserve the meaning and the specialness of whatever it was so they can carry it with them,
Hmm.
um, in the quote unquote real world.
Yeah. What
Um,
we call the real world.
what we call what we
And are
pretend
these
is the
are
real.
these like
Yeah.
one-on-one sessions,
Yeah.
or do you do groups ever? That could be interesting.
Yeah, the group, that's it's like on the list of things to do.
Yeah.
I'm currently I'm in the almost launching phase of a Substack
Nice.
where I'd like to be writing more about my
Hmm.
work in Jamaica and
Yeah.
my perspectives on um, personal growth and transformation in general.
Yeah.
Um, and so, yeah, that's what I'm working on. If anybody wants to reach out, and I think something else important for me is,
Hey, wait,
um,
really quick though, for so they can find you. What is your
yeah,
website?
my website is just my name, jameskalupson.com.
Nice. We
Um,
will put that in the episode description so people can find it.
yeah, and I guess the only other thing is, it's not just because for me it's really important. It's important for me and the work that I want to do to, even if somebody doesn't want to work one on one with me, or,
Hmm.
if they have a question about trying to find a reputable practitioner for something in the personal development space, if they're looking for a therapist or if they're looking for some sort of, that's the thing that's so hard to find. It's really hard to find good care and
Yeah.
good help
Yeah.
when you need it. A lot of people have, I mean, there's so many people who always have questions about psychedelics, and I don't want to. I want to be careful about promoting what is
Yeah.
still currently an illegal activity, but Um, the reality is that the number of people who are going to have access to psychedelic substances has already exploded since the time that we were in college, and it's going to continue to exponentially explode. And I guess what I want for all of those people is to know that there are people, myself and so many other people that I know, um, whose, our professional orientation is really around helping people get the most out of whatever experiences that they're looking to have. Whether it's to specifically try to work on this anxiety or depression, or if they want to explore spirituality and religion and kind of these deeper, maybe less traditional, um, therapeutic oriented uh, initiatives.
Alternative resources for recovery.
Yeah,
right?
I guess it's really all to say, like, I'm available for that if people have any questions. They can
If
reach
you want to
out.
have cool convos.
Yeah, and it's like I guess I'm just, because I think about myself, like when we were in college and those years when I still lived in state college afterwards, and I was going through my phase of really intense LSD experimentation.
Yeah.
And I didn't have anybody to talk to. My whole
Yeah.
world was getting turned upside down in the most amazing and also terrifying ways. Um, and I could feel myself transforming my perspectives about myself in so many different ways. And,
Yeah.
not only was there so much shame about reaching out to anyone that I knew at the time, like friends or family, there's no way I could even acknowledge that I was doing this without being afraid of what someone's reaction would be. But
Yeah.
let alone have somebody who could actually listen and help support me through, like, working through what it was that I experienced. And I guess that's what I'm trying to get at, is that that's what I want to be available for, and that's what I want to be able to provide for people, that help is there, it's available. And even if it's not with me, I'm happy to help try to provide any resources that will be helpful for you.
100%, man. That's awesome. So jameskalupson.com.
Yeah.
Check out all of James's work on there, future Substack as well.
Yeah.
I think that's really cool, man.
Yeah.
James, thanks so much, man, for coming on, dude. This
Yeah.
was awesome. I always love chatting with you, and you'll
Yeah.
have to come back on in the future sometime.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure. I mean, this is the second time. It's great to catch up, and
Yeah, man.
yeah. Best of luck in the meantime until the next time.
Excellent. Thank you, sir.
All right.
All right, thanks for listening. James's website, again, is jameskalupson.com. Check out jameskalupson.com if you'd like to learn more about James's work, and feel free to contact him via his website if you'd like to connect about psychedelic integration and or other resources. Remember that I'll be back up at Penn State this April doing more presentations for psychology students. I'll be presenting on Friday, April 17th. And as usual, I'm planning to bring a small film crew with me so we can record and or live stream the presentations for our online audiences. Bipolar Recorder is a renegade American mental health outreach initiative, and we're fully independent. For those of you who are able to offer financial support, check out bipolarrecorder.com and buy some cool merch or make a donation. We greatly appreciate your support. Bipolar Recorder is on Twitter and Instagram at Bipolar Recorder. We're also starting to get our YouTube channel active again with some recent video shorts that have been released. Remember that the podcast is only the tip of the iceberg. There's a plethora of awesome mental health content that I've released over the last few years, including books, films, music, and that sort of stuff. That's at Bipolar Recorder on your various social media platforms. Seriously, give us a follow. There's a lot of great stuff on there, and we always like to interact with our listeners. Finally, it really helps us out if you rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast, as well as tell people about it. Word of mouth is very helpful. My name is Hunter Keegan. You can follow my personal Twitter account at HHKeegan if you'd like to bear witness to the day-to-day bullshit going on in my life. Big things are ahead this year for Bipolar Recorder. Thank you again for listening. Have a prosperous day, evening, or night, wherever you are. Bipolar Recorder is a listener-supported show. To help keep the show running, consider checking out our Patreon page or visiting bipolarrecorder.com.
Unless otherwise stated, the hosts and guests on Bipolar Recorder are not licensed mental health professionals. Bipolar Recorder is not a substitute for therapy or professional medical intervention. If you are having a mental health crisis, please contact your local emergency services.